Chapter 1237. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Li's words could not be any more direct. In other words, it was, whoever dares to have any designs on Gu Mengmeng, I will let Elvis smack you to death. Single males were at most 3rd level and he, a 4th level beast, could easily deal with them. But he would not go up and directly use Elvis, the Beast King, to crush everyone. I want to see who has the guts to play tricks in front of the King of Hell. If everyone has no problems with the rules, then let's start the competition between 1st level beasts. After Leah gave the order, Hedda and Jiaoyu went up first. Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded. What was going on? Her son was only 2 years old. Who was he going to confess to? She looked down at the soft and adorable little Dodgy in her arms. Damn! Hedda, why are you going up? Don't you already have a wife? Before Gu Mengmeng could figure it out, Hedda and Jiaoyu were already fighting. After all, they were blood-related brothers and had a tacit understanding when they fought. Every attack was clean and it looked very exciting. But neither of them was injured, not even a scratch. She did not know if it was because of their statuses, but the audience cheered. After the two brothers fought for a while, Jiaoyu's gaze coupled with a series of attacks that were obviously a setup, and Hedda was held down by Jiaoyu. Jiaoyu wins. Leah had already returned to his seat beside Gu Mengmeng, announcing his victory with the attitude of a parent watching his own child play. Jiaoyu walked in front of Leah and scooped a bowl of food from the pot before walking towards one of the campfires. He knelt down on one knee and placed the stone bowl on the ground. Then, he conversed with a female. As the distance was too far, Gu Mengmeng could not hear them clearly. She only knew that after a while, Jiaoyu returned with the stone bowl and a little lion in his arms. Mother-in-law, let me raise my wife in your house too. Jiaoyu blinked his eyes that were so similar to Gu Mengmeng's and smiled. You can't just be nice to Hedda. I have been calling you mother-in-law for so many years, my wife has to be raised by you too. Gu Mengmeng smiled. Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded. Wasn't her son too mature? Sandy sighed and said, all right, since you've asked, how can I refuse? Jiaoyu sniggered and said, I knew that mother-in-law dotes on me the most. With that, Jiaoyu sat beside Gu Mengmeng and placed the little lion on her lap. Mom, my wife doesn't have a name either. Give her one. Ha! Gu Mengmeng could not keep up with her son's pace. Jiaoyu laughed. It can't be, mother. She's obviously your daughter-in-law. Isn't it too obvious that you're biased? No, Mom, there are so many people watching. If you can only name Big Brother's wife and not me, then people will definitely say that I'm raised by a stepmother in the future. Then, they will look down on me and despise me. Sob sob sob, Mom, will I have no face to see people in the future? Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. Jiaoyu was being unreasonable, wasn't he? He took a deep breath and said, I'll take it, all right. Gu Mengmeng carefully recalled all her memories of lions, but she really could not remember which lioness was famous. Wait a minute, there really was one. Kiera. Gu Mengmeng said, she's the most famous lioness I can think of. Jiaoyu asked curiously, what's she most famous for? Is it also her beauty? Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, no, she's most famous for her father. Her father is the Lion King Simba. Digression. Chapter 1238. Ha ha ha, good, good. You're like me, a second generation who can depend on your father, right? Jiaoyu poked Kiera with a smile. Hey, little wife, remember your name is Kiera. I will call you Xiaoya in the future. Do you hear me? Oh whoa, Kiera cried out in a childish voice. No one knew what she was trying to express, but it was rather cute. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head to look at the two daughters-in-law in her arms. Damn, it felt like she was hugging a kitten and a puppy. Damn, it was supposed to be Sandy's choice of partner. Why did it suddenly become her choice of daughters-in-law? Alright, Mum, you can play with these 2 daughters-in-law first. If it's not enough, ask second brother and Canwo to find another 2 for you. With that, she patted her butt. Let Daddy Leah accompany you. I will host this sparring session. With that, Jialyu walked to the arena and took over Lee's job, starting to host the sparring session. With Heda and Jialyu throwing out a brick to attract Jade, the first-level orcs who were initially too shy to go on stage became much more lively. But basically no one dared to confess. Because everyone was very clear that today's sparring session was to display their strength to the other 2 tribes. After tonight, the leadership of Sauter would be decided. Even if the females would really accept new partners, they would definitely not be these first-level orcs. But none of the 3 forces were willing to lose, so even if it was just a first-level orc sparring session, it was still very exciting. By the time Gu Mengmeng regained her senses from the fact that she suddenly had 2 daughters-in-law, it was already the second-level orc sparring session. On the stage, a wolf and a tiger were locked in a fierce battle. This was a battle between the 16 tribes and the wolf clan. Fights between males were mostly bloody and brutal. But if they did not fight this battle, it would be really difficult to deal with the 3 parties who would not submit to each other. They were males, and their relationships were formed through fighting. As long as they did not kill each other, they would become friends after fighting. Moreover, she had seen too much of Little Shits and Elvis's fighting style, so she did not feel any psychological burden watching these sparring sessions. And Jialyu was very smart. He grasped the timing very well. Once one party lost the ability to attack, he would immediately declare the winner, not giving the other party any chance to kill each other. In the end, the tiger won. Elvis expressed his indifference towards this because he did not care whether the wolf clan was the leader in Sauter or not. However, the people of the wolf clan were very upset because they felt that they had lost face for their king. The tiger's injuries were not light either. He dragged his limping legs and scooped up a stone bowl of food. He walked to Gu Mengmeng and stood firmly, looking at her. As he stood there, the entire place fell silent. Brave warrior. A true warrior. No, he might become a martyr. Elvis narrowed his eyes and sat up straight. A second-level tiger beast was really too small in his eyes, but he would not belittle any male who coveted Gu Mengmeng. The tiger beast panted and was about to speak when Gu Mengmeng gestured for him to stop. Gu Mengmeng tried her best to comfort him. Some words can't be taken back once they've been spoken. Think about it carefully and speak after you've thought it through. This world is so beautiful, why do you want to die? Chapter 1239. It was a false alarm. Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief and her heart was finally at ease. Elvis and Leah also relaxed their grim expressions and sat back in their comfortable positions. Everyone who was holding their breaths all laughed softly. Only the tiger beast, who was holding the bowl, did not understand and just looked at Gu Mengmeng, waiting for her reply. After being relieved, there was a wave of awkwardness. She thought that he was going to confess to her and her own husband almost killed him. How embarrassing. Clearing her throat, Gu Mengmeng pretended to be calm and said, "It's not a problem to bring you back to St. Nazaire, but I can't guarantee that Mandy will accept you." "It's all right, I will always work hard," the tiger beast said confidently. Gu Mengmeng smiled and nodded. "Since that's the case, you don't have to wait for me. You can head straight to St. Nazaire tomorrow morning. When you reach there, look for Barit and tell him that I asked you to go." With that, Gu Mengmeng took out a piece of snake scale and threw it to the tiger beast, saying, "This is a keepsake. Barit recognizes it. With this, he won't make things difficult for you." That piece of snake scale was given to Gu Mengmeng by Ellie previously. There were crooked simplified Chinese characters carved on it, and it was something that Gu Mengmeng had secretly copied from Snake. Barit had seen it before, and Gu Mengmeng had kept it on her for so long. Barit would definitely believe that it had Gu Mengmeng's scent on it. "Thank you, great messenger." The tiger beast gave a simple and honest smile, then put away the snake's scales like a treasure and left the bonfire party. He could not wait for tomorrow morning. He wanted to find Mandy now. After this small blunder, the competition between the second-level orcs became more intense. The wolf beast won 6 of the 8 rounds in a row and only stopped after regaining his reputation in front of Elvis. The last was the main event, the competition between the third-level orcs. Gu Mengmeng shifted her butt to sit beside Sandy, saying, after sizing them up for so long, "Did you take a fancy to any of them? I'll get Jiaoyu to help you blow the black whistle." Sandy was amused by Gu Mengmeng's teasing and said, "Do you still think that this competition is really to strengthen our relationship?" All 3 parties were competing with each other. If you really let Jiaoyu blow the black whistle, it would be even harder for him to convince the masses in the future. What's more, the reason I'm choosing my partner this time is to improve my family's strength. I don't want a male who can only win by blowing a black whistle. Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and nodded. "That's true, we don't want that kind of embroidered pillow." "That's right." Sandy chuckled as he turned his attention back to the sparring field. The first to fight was Arnold of the Snow Fox clan against Hodgson of the Wolf clan. Gu Mengmeng knew this Arnold. He was the child of one of the elders in the Snow Fox tribe and had been highly regarded since young. It was said that his father had the intention to pass the position of an elder to him. Being of the same generation as Leah, he should be able to break through the 3rd level immediately after mating. His abilities were not to be underestimated. Gu Mengmeng also knew Hodgson. He was one of the first wolf beasts to follow Elvis back from the Mecca Desert. Elvis didn't like to interfere with the affairs of the pack, and unknowingly, Arnold became the little leader of the pack. His position was similar to Wabi Eyes in the Snake King Valley. Both of them were heavyweights. It looked like neither wanted to lose. Gu Mengmeng poked Elvis and then Leah, as if she was watching a good show. Guess who will win? Chapter 1240. Lee's words were directed at Gu Mengmeng, but his eyes were looking at Elvis, obviously having a playful intention. Elvis said coldly, "No. I won't use Xiao Meng as a wager." Leah clicked his tongue and said, "Boring." With that, he wagged his tail and leaned into Gu Mengmeng's arms, asking, "Mengmeng, who do you think will win?" Gu Mengmeng said nervously, "I don't know. Both sides are the cream of the crop, it's hard to tell who will win." Leah chuckled and said, "Then who do you hope to win?" This was the first battle between the 3rd-level orcs. The outcome would determine the future direction of Sauter. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed and looked at Leah with a headache, saying, "Why don't we stay in Sauter for a while?" "All right." Leah and Elvis had never questioned Gu Mengmeng's decision and just followed her orders. Rubbing Gu Mengmeng's temples, Leah asked softly, "Do you feel heartache for throwing such a complicated situation to Hede and Jiaoyu?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. In her eyes, this situation was giving her a headache. How difficult would it be for the 2 children to move forward? To put it nicely, he was the leader, but he did not have any power of his own. He had to rely on Jiaoyu's identity as the messenger's son to act as a mediator. Luckily Hede and Jiaoyu were of the same mind, or else these 2 children would have been eaten alive. It was no wonder that Sandy felt heartache for using herself as a marriage alliance, just to help these 2 kids earn some bargaining chips. Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's little nose and said, "If you want to stay in Sauter, we will stay. If you want Elvis and I to solve these problems, we will. But there is no place in this world where people are not complicated. You can't protect them forever." "I understand the logic, but isn't that the identity of a mother? Never able to stop worrying for your own children." Sigh, raising a child for 100 years, but worrying for 99 years. Leah did not say anything more and just gave Elvis a look. Elvis then took over Gu Meng Meng from Lee's hands and continued to massage her temples. Meanwhile, Leah took over the fruit platter and used his sharp fingernails to cut the fruits into small pieces that were suitable for one bite. He then sent them into Gu Meng Meng's mouth piece by piece. On the field, Arnold and Hodgson were also locked in a fierce battle. They both understood what kind of mission they were shouldering. Although they could not kill each other, every move they made was ruthless, and it seemed like they would not rest until one side was dead. Gu Meng Meng felt her head ache even more. She looked up at Elvis and then at Leah, saying, "This way of fighting, they won't stop until one side is exhausted to death, right?" Leah swayed his tail and said, "Not every wolf and fox in this world can coexist peacefully like me and Elvis." There were too many similarities and subtle differences between the two races. For example, they were arrogant and ruthless. When these two races meet, it's inevitable that they will fight to the death. Gu Meng Meng sighed and said, "So was it a mistake to place the wolf tribe in solder? Would it be better to bring him to Zacharias or Saint Nazir?" Chapter 1241. Gu Meng Meng thought for a moment before chuckling. "The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. If you want the garden to be filled with the colors of spring, you cannot allow a single branch to stand out." Gu Meng Meng didn't say that this was a sentence the Empress used to say to a favored concubine in the past. Leah thought for a moment before nodding. "That's about it." Gu Meng Meng pointed at the two who were still fighting. "Then, what do you plan to do about this?" Leah chuckled. "One match can't decide anything. We still have to look at the results, isn't that right?" Gu Meng Meng nodded. She leaned into Elvis's arms and occasionally stole a glance at Sandy. She realized that she was hugging the two little females and playing happily. Her mind was completely not on the match on the arena. She didn't care who won or lost. As long as the person she was going to mate with tonight was a powerful male from the wolf tribe. It didn't matter which one it was. Dodgy and Kiera still didn't understand the conflict between the races. They only knew that they were happy to have someone to play with. Hence, they played until their stomachs were up in the air. It was a stark contrast to the two males who were fighting. The wolf tribe won this match. Because no matter how cunning a fox was, it was still no match for a wolf in terms of raw power. This was an innate difference. Just based on combat skills, the wolf would definitely win. This was also why the combination of Elvis and Leah was always decided by Leah and executed by Elvis. Even if the two of them appeared on the battlefield at the same time, Elvis would be the leader and Leah would be in charge of covering. Hodgson took a bowl of meat from Jiaoyu and brought it to Sandy. "Little female, are you willing to mate with me?" Sandy looked up and smiled at Hodgson. She didn't even request for Hodgson to accept the test of her current partner. Bode and Colin kept their heads down and remained silent. They took care of the children and brought food to Sandy as if they were not affected at all. But Gu Meng Meng was too familiar with them. She easily noticed the emptiness in their eyes. In this world, no male could remain indifferent when he knew his female was looking for a new partner. However, the female was God, and they did not have the right to say no. Gu Meng Meng thought to herself, if she was the one who wanted to marry a few new partners for the sake of the stability of the tribe. Yeah, Elvis and Leah would not hesitate to raise Solder to the ground, then smile and say to her, "All right, there's no more tribe, there's no need to maintain stability anymore." The competition continued. Because Hodgson's victory had greatly boosted the morale of the werewolves, they became more and more courageous. Even though the Snow Fox clan had lost the first battle, they were not discouraged. They immediately began to rearrange their troops and arranged corresponding troops according to the order of the wolf clan. However, there were too many variables when it came to improvising on the spot. Perhaps the Snow Fox clan's prior preparations had allowed them to gain an advantage or two, but the Wolf clan was not a fool. They would not remain passive all the time. Both sides racked their brains to think of ways to strangle the other, but this stubbornness gave the 16 tribes a huge opening. By the time the people of the Snow Fox clan and the Wolf clan had reacted, the 16 tribes had already gained an absolute advantage in the battle between the third-level orcs. Chapter 1242. Gu Meng Meng stared at Leah with a face full of disbelief. Leah chuckled. Dodgy from the Snow Fox tribe, Kiera from the 16 tribes and Sandy's Wolf tribe partners. Don't you think this distribution is too balanced? You mean, Lee's gaze was crafty, reflecting the sparks from the bonfire. His smile was full of praise. Jiaoyu is after all a child I brought up. In some aspects, he is very similar to me. Gu Meng Meng was unhappy. She twitched her lips. Forget about Sandy taking in partners. With me and Elvis around, they wouldn't dare to bully him. But if Heda and Jiaoyu are going to use their entire lives to exchange for Sauter's balance, then why not let Sauter continue to be chaotic? Once a male mates, it was equivalent to handing over his entire life to the female. By then, the Snow Fox tribe would use Dodgy to control Heda, while the 16 tribes would use Kiera to control Jiaoyu. Sooner or later, the brothers would turn against each other. Gu Meng Meng didn't want to see such a day for her own sons. Leah smiled as he pinched Gu Meng Meng's nose with a helpless expression. He sighed and said, "Since we have already put it this way, do you still think Jiaoyu is a fool and would place himself in such a situation?" Gu Meng Meng blinked in confusion. Leah said, "I only said to raise them at Sandy's house." Who said that they must mate? Females are more delicate and won't participate in any form of battle. So they need more time to accumulate experience. They need at least 8 to 10 years of age to transform. By then, they will be at least 16 or 17 years old. By then, Heda and Jiaoyu will be 18 or 19 years old. Do you think that Heda and Jiaoyu, who are able to stabilize the situation at 2.5 years old, will still be controlled and coerced by these people when they are Elvis's age? Gu Meng Meng thought about it seriously. She shook her head and chuckled. This was the second common fault of all mothers. No matter how outstanding their children were, they were used to worrying over nothing. They clearly loved their children the most, but they would never learn to trust them. They would take care of them like greenhouse flowers that could not withstand any storms. Leah kissed the corner of Gu Mingming's lips and said, "There are only 2 possible scenarios in the future. These 2 little females look decent and get along well with the 2 brothers. They fell in love with each other and became partners. In that case, do you think that Jiaoyu would allow others to make use of the people he cares about? Moreover, would a child raised by Sandy be biased towards an outsider?" The other scenario was that these 2 children had grown up in the wrong way. Heda and Jiaoyu did not like them and refused to mate with them. Then things would be even simpler. If our sons did not want to drink water, who would be able to stop them? Furthermore, who in this world would have the guts to force the sons of 2 beast kings to mate? Thinking about it this way, it made sense. It was just that Gu Meng Meng felt rather apologetic for making use of the 2 females. Hence, in the days that followed, Gu Meng Meng, the model mother-in-law of the beast world, treated Dodgy and Kiera especially well. As there was a competition segment at the night campfire party, it lasted until very late. Gu Meng Meng, who had not stayed up late for many years, finally collapsed in Elvis's arms in exhaustion. She had originally wanted to help Sandy with the matter of finding a partner, but in the end, she was not of much help. Sandy basically accepted all the wolf beasts that confessed to her. Chapter 1243. They both knew what the other party's motive was and what the other party could provide for them. This kind of mating was more like an alliance. If the Wolf clan wished to replace the Snow Fox clan in Sodor, they first had to strengthen Hedda and Gialu's position. Although they were only first-level beasts, they had the bloodline of the Wolf King and were on the same side as them. On one hand, mating with Sandy was to borrow Sandy's stomach to give birth to a little female wolf to mate with the Wolf King's son. On the other hand, it was because Hedda and Gialu both valued Sandy. Mating with her was the fastest way to express their sincerity to the two young masters. Regardless of which of the two reasons mentioned above, the 7 male wolves would treat Sandy very well. And in order to help Hedda and Gialu win over the Wolf clan, Sandy would definitely not mistreat Hodgson and the rest. Moreover, Sandy was a gentle person to begin with. Even if she did not have much feelings for her partner before she became his partner, once she became his partner, she would at least not abandon her partner like Nina or Ellie. This was originally the normal way of mating in the beast world. Gu Meng Meng, Elvis and Leah, who loved each other to death before mating, were the exceptions. Gu Meng Meng could feel that the winds in Sodor were changing unknowingly. But Leah was right, she had to learn to trust her own sons. Before the dry season ended, she, Elvis and Leah would stay in Sodor. So Hedda and Gialu had 3 to 4 months to rely on the messenger of the beast deity as their biological mother and the Wolf King and Ninth Highness as their fathers to buffer the conflict between the three forces in Sodor. Of course, Hedda had always been steady. Although he was only first level, he was very popular. Especially after his engagement with Daji, the Snow Fox clan spared no effort in cooperating with him. On the other hand, Gialu's little tricks at the night campfire had allowed the 16 tribes to reap the spoils of the war. Despite being pincered by the Snow Fox clan and the Wolf clan, he managed to achieve victory amidst the dangers. Just a few casual words had such an effect. The people of the 16 tribes were wholeheartedly convinced by his strategy, and in addition to the marriage agreement he had with Kiera, the people of the 16 tribes naturally followed Gialu's lead and were rather obedient. As for the Wolf tribe, firstly, with Elvis sitting here, no one dared to make a fuss. Secondly, the person in charge of Sodor was after all the Wolf clan's young master, so no matter what, they were all on the same side. No matter how much they confronted the other two parties secretly, they would not let their young master fall into a dilemma. So, at least on the surface, Sodor had reached a tacit agreement of peace. A week had passed since the night campfire and Gu Meng Meng had not gone to look for Sandy. It was not that she did not want to go, but it was really, there were several times when he was at the door, but he heard indescribable sounds coming from inside. He had no choice but to turn around and leave. Gu Meng Meng propped her cheeks and suddenly looked at Elvis resentfully. Do you wolf beasts not know how to be tender to women? It's been 7 days. Are you going to make Sandy die in bed? Elvis was baffled by her scolding. He rubbed his nose and smiled helplessly. Gu Meng Meng also knew that her outburst was unreasonable, so she sighed and said, Sorry, you didn't do anything wrong. I shouldn't have vented my anger on you and scolded randomly. Chapter 1244. Aw. Gu Meng Meng was stunned by Elvis's words and didn't know how to react. Elvis kissed Gu Meng Meng's little face and said, It's my honor to be scolded by you. Others don't get it even if they want it. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and shook her head speechlessly. Elvis pinched Gu Meng Meng's slender and soft fingers and said, I am your male, you can scold and hit me if you want. You don't need a reason or an apology, do you understand? I am not a pervert. Gu Meng Meng turned her head away in rebuke. Elvis placed Gu Meng Meng's little hand into his mouth and bit it lightly. He didn't say anything else. The two of them were sitting by the side of the stone castle and enjoying their time together when a wolf beast walked over. Upon closer inspection, they realized it was Sandy's new partner, Hodgson. Wolf King, Queen. Hodgson bowed respectfully and said, Sandy said she misses the Queen very much and wants to invite the Queen to our house for a visit. Elvis raised his brows with an unfriendly expression and said, Sandy's temper has grown. In the past, she would at most come over without a greeting when she misses you. Now, she sent someone to invite you. Gu Meng Meng poked Elvis and said, It's not that she doesn't want to come, she can't come. Elvis looked at Gu Meng Meng in confusion. Gu Meng Meng gritted her teeth and said, She took in 7 wolf beasts at once, do you think she can get down from the bed now? Elvis thought about how Gu Meng Meng would sleep for 2 to 3 days after he made love with her, unable to wake up at all. He understood, but was still very unhappy. Then you can't go over now, the air at her place is not good now. Gu Mingming's expression changed. Gu Meng Meng pinched Elvis with a smile and said, Have you forgotten that I promised Sandy that every time she mates in the future, I will congratulate her and sing for her? In that case, Xiao Meng, how long has it been since you sang for me? Didn't you sing on the way back from the Mecca desert? Gu Meng Meng said. That doesn't count. Elvis had a nagging feeling that Gu Meng Meng did not sing that song for him. It felt weird, but he could not put his finger on it. Anyway, something was not right. Gu Meng Meng squirmed in his arms and said, I will sing for you when we are back. I am going to see Sandy now, do you want to come with me? What else could Elvis say? How could he bear not to look at her? Carrying Gu Meng Meng, he stood up and headed straight for the stone castle where Sandy was staying. When he reached the stone castle, he saw Sandy nestled in Colin's arms, looking so weak that she was about to die. Bode was holding a stone bowl and feeding her carefully mouthful by mouthful, his eyes filled with heartache. The moment she looked up and saw Gu Meng Meng, a smile finally appeared on Sandy's face. Her eyes brightened and she wanted to wave her hand to call Gu Meng Meng over, but realized that she could not even lift her arm. She opened her mouth, but her throat could no longer make a sound. She could only shrug her shoulders weakly and smile helplessly. Gu Meng Meng jumped down from Elvis's arms and sat beside Sandy. She then glanced at Bode and he immediately passed the bowl in his hands to Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng took the stone bowl and said while feeding Sandy, The sun is just nice outside. Go get some thick beast skin and lay it at the door. I want to bask in the sun with Sandy. Chapter 1245. After Bode finished laying out the beast skin, Gu Meng Meng had just finished feeding him the meat soup in her bowl. She then glanced at Colin and walked out without saying a word. Colin kept his head down the entire time. Even though he was the tyrant of Sauter with his usual heroic spirit, he was like a cowardly bear in front of Gu Meng Meng. He did not dare to say anything and just followed behind Gu Meng Meng. Seeing Gu Meng Meng sitting at the corner of the beast skin and Elvis sitting behind her to act as a warm leather backrest, Colin wanted to learn from Elvis and let Sandy lean on him. But he had just stepped one foot on the beast's skin when Gu Meng Meng said, Tisk. Colin was so frightened that he immediately retracted his foot and looked at Gu Meng Meng innocently and pitifully. Gu Meng Meng then said, Give Sandy to me. Go and call all the males in your family out. Colin secretly broke out in cold sweat and nodded naively. He did not dare to say anything and hurriedly called out his 4 original partners and the 7 new wolf beasts that Sandy had taken in. There was a total of 11 of them and they stood in a row in front of the beast skin. The original 4 males in Sandy's family all knew what was going on and all lowered their heads obediently, not daring to make a sound. But the 7 new wolf beasts were at a loss. They looked at each other, not knowing what was going on but not daring to do anything. After all, this great lady was not only the messenger of the beast deity but also the queen of the wolf clan. And behind her was the mighty Wolf King. Gu Mingming's gaze swept across the 11 of them and said in a neutral tone, You are really capable. Great messenger, I was wrong. Colin was the first to admit his mistake with a sincere attitude. Gu Meng Meng chuckled, Oh. Tell me, where did you go wrong? Colin scratched his head and said, I don't know, but your smile is so scary, it must be my fault. Gu Meng Meng was so angry at Colin that she laughed. She looked down at Sandy and asked, Girl, how did you fall for this piece of wood in the first place? Sandy's throat was so hoarse that she could not speak at all. She just smiled helplessly and shook her head lightly. Gu Meng Meng looked up again and asked, How many fourth-level beasts do you have in your family now? Colin answered honestly, Only me now. However, it seems like Hodgson and Jerry only need one more battle to level up. Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, So at least until now, you are still the strongest in your family, right? Colin nodded stiffly. Gu Meng Meng's face darkened. As the strongest in the family, what are your responsibilities? Protect Sandy. Colin answered directly without thinking. Gu Meng Meng sneered. Is this how you protect Sandy? Ha! Colin was stunned by the question. He immediately lowered his head and said sullenly, But Sandy chose her own partner. Oh, so if one day Sandy doesn't want to live anymore, will you let her die? That won't do. Colin looked up and was so anxious that he was tongue-tied. Gu Meng Meng pointed at the bear mark on Sandy's chest and said, Your mark is on her chest and you are the most powerful person in the family. What you have to do is to protect her and ensure her safety under all circumstances. But she was tortured to such a miserable state right under your eyes, and you say you don't know what you did wrong. Chapter 1246. There's a next time. Gu Meng Meng glared at Colin. Colin did not know why he was being glared at again. He pointed at the wolf beast beside him and said, The 5 of them have not mated yet. This time, it was Gu Meng Meng's turn to be stunned. After 7 days, they only mated with 2. Damn it. Inhuman. Gu Meng Meng turned back to look at Elvis in shock. Elvis chuckled and bit Gu Meng Meng's earlobe. He whispered into her ear, Now you know how much control I have over myself. F***K. Every time she was tortured by Elvis and Leah, it was as if every bone in her body had been disassembled and reassembled. And it was actually the result of control. Gu Meng Meng felt so tired. She ignored Elvis and just looked at Colin. She sighed and said, Didn't I say it the last time? If you can't protect Sandy, I will bring her away. Gu Meng Meng, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Colin immediately admitted defeat and promised, in the future, when they mate, I will sit at the side and watch. If Sandy can't take it anymore, I will immediately stop and bring her away. I won't let her suffer anymore. I beg you, don't bring Sandy away. The 7 wolves looked at each other. When they first arrived at Sodor, they had already inquired about the general situation here. They knew that Sandy and the Queen were on good terms. They also knew that this 4th-level bear Colin had once been the messenger's guard and was now Sodor's strongest fighter. Because of his protection, the 2 young masters were not so passive in Sodor. In these 7 days, other than Hodgson and Jerry who had mated with Sandy and did not know what was going on outside, the other 5 wolves had witnessed Colin's ruthlessness. They all had a tacit understanding not to offend Colin after mating. But who could tell them what was wrong with this coward now? Gu Meng Meng did not care about what they thought. She just lowered her head and held Sandy's little face, asking, Sandy, is your throat sore? Do you want to eat yellow sauce? Sandy knew that Gu Meng Meng was feeling sorry for her. She was afraid that she would be bullied by her new partners because of her good temper, so she came to show them her power. She wanted to tell them that the person supporting her was the messenger of the beast deity, Gu Meng Meng. Although she felt that Colin was innocent, Sandy still nodded cooperatively. Her little eyes were filled with grievance. Gu Meng Meng nodded her head, her heart aching for him. Then, when she looked up at Colin, her smile changed. Colin stared blankly for 2 seconds, then immediately said, I I know the yellow needle beasts. I'll get you some yellow gravy. I will only take half from each nest. I promise I won't kill them all. Only then did Gu Mengmeng reply with a lukewarm, yeah. Colin turned around and ran away as if he had just been pardoned. Gu Mingming's gaze turned and landed on Bode. She grinned and Bode's hair stood on end. He could not help but take half a step back and lowered his head. Great messenger, I know I was wrong too. As long as you don't take Sandy away, I'll accept any punishment you say. Bode, you are Sandy's first partner, but how much longer do you plan to stay in the second rank? Gu Mingming's words hit the nail on the head, making Bode speechless. When he first mated with Sandy, he was only a level 1 orc. It was only after experiencing so many battles in the past 2 years that he finally rose to level 2. Even so, compared to his current family members, level 2 was still not enough. In the beast world, being weak was a sin. Chapter 1247. But apart from accumulating experience, opportunities were also very important for a male to level up. Fighting with all their might, some could easily level up, while others couldn't even advance to the next level. And Bode just happened to belong to the second category. Even before he met Gu Mengmeng, he had been longing to level up so that he could protect Sandy from Nina. But now, even after fighting with all his might, he had only advanced from the first level to the second level. Gu Mengmeng sighed. I know someone who might be able to raise your fighting abilities, but the method must be cruel and the process must be painful. I'll go. Bode blurted out almost without hesitation. His gaze landed on Sandy's worried face. Bode smiled as he knelt down on one knee and caressed Sandy's little face. You'll be fine with Colin and the rest taking care of you. No matter how hard it is, I will ascend to become your pride as soon as possible. I will not let others say that your first partner is a useless piece of trash. Be good, alright. Sandy knew that every time someone used Bode's level to make fun of her, Bode would feel sad in his heart. She knew that Bode was already working very hard, and she didn't think that being a second-level beast was something to be ashamed of. But Bode was a male. He had his pride that he had to protect. Sandy's throat couldn't speak. She could only hold Bode's hand and look deeply into his eyes. Bode had been partners with Sandy for many years. He could understand her intentions just by looking at her. He kissed her face. Don't worry. I will not let Joseph and his brothers lose their father. I will be back as soon as possible. Sandy finally nodded. But her gaze was still reluctant to part. Bode looked up at Gu Mengmeng. Great messenger, please tell me. Where should I go to find this person you mentioned? Gu Mengmeng replied. Zacharias, Peter. A place and a person's name didn't need any more words. Bode hugged Sandy tightly. He planted a heavy kiss on her forehead before leaving without looking back. Gu Mengmeng hugged Sandy. Don't worry. Qi Xian and Kan Wo are there. Nothing will happen. Sandy smiled at Gu Mengmeng. She knew that Gu Mingming's arrangement was for her own good. It was also the best situation for Bode. Colin wasn't a threat to Bode, but that didn't mean Hodgson and the others weren't. Wolf beasts were savage by nature. If you couldn't crush them in terms of strength, it would be very difficult for them to truly submit to you. Especially since Hodgson and the rest had partnered with her for the sake of the tribe, it was hard to guarantee that they would not have thoughts of eradicating and replacing Bode. Therefore, Bode had to become stronger. After scolding Colin and making arrangements for Bode, Gu Mingming's gaze finally landed on Hodgson and Jerry. The two of them were still in a state of shock from Colin and Bode's scolding. When they met Gu Mingming's eyes out of the blue, they were startled and instinctively avoided her gaze. In a confrontation between wild beasts, the first to retreat would be the loser. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and said, "Originally, I was here to congratulate you and Sandy for mating. But seeing you guys torturing my Sandy into such a miserable state, I really don't feel good about it." Chapter 1248. I am a very fair person. As Gu Meng Meng spoke, she placed Sandy's head down from her knees and even thoughtfully wrapped a piece of beast skin into a pillow to cushion Sandy's head. Then, she patted her lightly before standing up. "You guys have made my precious Sandy suffer, so I will make you guys suffer twice as much in order to appease your anger." Sandy shook her head. Hodgson and Jerry looked at each other, not understanding what Gu Meng Meng meant. Gu Meng Meng smiled and clapped her hands. She got into a fighting stance and said, "I heard that both of you are at the peak of 3rd level and can level up after a fight. I, the Great Messenger, will personally be your sparring partner. You must be grateful." With that, Gu Meng Meng charged over and punched Hodgson in the stomach. At the same time, she kicked Jerry in the chest. Gu Meng Meng did not unleash her beast pressure in consideration of Sandy's ability to withstand it. Moreover, she could not unleash her full power as a beast king. Moreover, it was just a small punishment, and she was not really trying to buy someone's life, so Gu Meng Meng was merciful. How would the two wolf beasts dare to attack their own queen? Didn't they see the Wolf King sitting there staring at them with a kind and amiable smile? If they dared to misbehave, the Wolf King would pick them up and crush them into a pulp. Elvis's warning when they first arrived at Sodor was still ringing in their ears. The Wolf King would never show them any mercy when it came to the queen. Hence, the two warriors who had been in the limelight at the night campfire party and were still proud of themselves yesterday were beaten black and blue by Gu Meng Meng today. Gu Meng Meng only squatted beside them when they could no longer stand up. "I took you back to protect and take care of Sandy. If you dare to use her as a tool to satisfy your lust, then you must be mentally prepared to bear the consequences. After all, the person standing behind Sandy is me, Gu Meng Meng." With that, Gu Meng Meng stood up. Because she had lowered her head, the sunlight cast a shadow over her. At 1.7 meters, she could only be considered a petite Lolita in the beast world. But at that moment, they were black Lolitas. "This time, it's just a small punishment to warn you against future troubles. If I find out that you made Sandy suffer again, it won't end so easily." After Gu Meng Meng finished speaking, Hodgson and Jerry squeezed out some air from their lungs and answered shakily, "Yes, we understand, Queen." Gu Meng Meng looked up with a face full of smiles. Facing the sunlight, she looked especially warm, as if she was not the one who had beaten up the two males without relying on her beast pressure. But even though she was smiling brightly, none of the 5 wolf beasts dared to belittle her. All of them were trembling with fear and did not dare to treat her as a little female protected by the Wolf King anymore. Gu Meng Meng stood in front of the 5 males who had yet to mate with Sandy and paced back and forth. She then smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, although I am not a good person, I will not bully the weak. As long as you take good care of Sandy and treat her gently, I won't hit you for no reason. Don't worry, Queen, we will treat Sandy very well." The wolf beasts nodded repeatedly, not daring to be the slightest bit slow. Gu Meng Meng then sat down beside Sandy in satisfaction. She lifted Sandy's head and placed it on her lap, then asked, "Where's the water?" Chapter 1249. After Gu Meng Meng's ruckus, all the males in Sandy's family got along with each other. They no longer doubted why Bode would suck up to Gu Meng Meng the moment he saw her. They also no longer doubted why Colin would immediately admit defeat when Gu Meng Meng only glanced at him casually. Yeah, they had to learn from their seniors' experiences. Afterwards, Gu Meng Meng hugged Sandy and sang Dowry once again. This was what Gu Meng Meng had promised Sandy in the past. She would sing this song for her whenever she mated. As Bode and Colin were not around, Sandy's other old partner, a dolly, could only lead the way. Even Hodgson and Jerry, who had been beaten up by Gu Meng Meng, were supported by others to stand in front of Gu Meng Meng. Then, they bowed and said, "Queen, thank you for not being a male." Gu Meng Meng smiled. She was already used to this kind of gratitude, even from the initial awkwardness. Every male in Sandy's family would thank Gu Meng Meng for not being a male, because Leah had said that if Gu Meng Meng was a male, they would not even have a chance. Gu Meng Meng said a lot of things to Sandy unilaterally. Sandy clearly could not open her mouth to reply, but the two of them still communicated smoothly by nodding, shaking their heads, smiling and frowning. They chatted happily. When Colin returned with all his bags, he saw 2 of the 7 new wolf beasts sitting at the entrance of the cave on their last breaths, while the other 5 were eagerly waiting on Gu Meng Meng and Sandy. If Colin had watched court dramas before, he would have thought of an adjective, little eunuch. "You're back." Gu Meng Meng felt refreshed after beating up Sandy. Her smile was much brighter when she greeted Colin. Colin did not hold a grudge against Gu Meng Meng for teaching him a lesson just now. He just gave her a silly smile and hurriedly mixed the honey into water. He brought out 2 cups, one for Sandy and one for Gu Meng Meng. Yes, Gu Meng Meng had a special cup at Sandy's house. After Colin returned, Gu Meng Meng then handed Sandy over to him to take care of. She then told him about Bode's situation, before following Elvis back to the stone castle. Sandy's body needed at least half a month to recuperate. Moreover, there were still 5 wolf beasts waiting to mate with her. She probably would not have the time to take care of Dodgy and Kiera before the dry season ended. Meanwhile, Elvis and Leah were adamant that these 2 females must not be brought back to the stone castle. Hence, they could only let their respective fiancés take care of them. Hedda would often have a soft and cute little snow fox lying on his shoulder, docile and obedient. On top of Jiaoyu's head would lie a little lion. Its big eyes were intelligent, lively, and adorable. The 3 factions had reached an unprecedented level of harmony because they had managed to rope in Hedda, Jiaoyu, and Sandy respectively. They were unwilling to do anything that could break the alliance, and so the situation quickly turned in Hedda and Jiaoyu's favor. After listening to Li's analysis, Gu Meng Meng started to relax. She believed that she had always felt that Jiaoyu and Hedda could not handle it because of maternal love, and had treated them like children. After a few peaceful days, Elvis and Leah walked out of the stone castle alone one night. "Leah, you have to level up as soon as possible," Elvis said in a low voice. Chapter 1250. Elvis looked at Leah with a serious expression, forcing Leah to retract his playful smile. Frowning, he locked his long and narrow eyes on Elvis's face. "Is there anything you're planning that I don't know about?" Elvis sighed. "I know that becoming the Beast King will attract a pack of wolves and become an unmanageable problem, but I still want to be the Beast King." "You really don't know what my motive is?" Leah was stunned for a moment, then he turned around. I don't know anything. And I won't level up, I'll just remain at the 4th level, enough to crush all the other males chasing after Meng Meng." Elvis grabbed onto Li's shoulder, stopping him from leaving. "It's because I can see that you've been slacking off after I became the Beast King, that's why I came to talk to you today. Preparing for a rainy day is your way of doing things. We can't afford another sudden blow." Leah bit his lips, glanced sideways at Elvis. "All right, I'll work hard to level up to the 5th level, then find the spirit of the Rocky Cliffs to activate the Beast King bloodline. But you have to promise me one thing, if Meng Meng really gets the 2nd tier of the Beast Deity one day, that tier of the Beast Deity will definitely be mine." Elvis pursed his lips, not saying a word, his jaw tightened into a straight line. Leah chuckled. "I won't level up if you don't promise me. You want to use yourself as an insurance, learn from Snake and sacrifice yourself to use the tier of the Beast Deity to prolong Meng Meng's life when Meng Meng is in danger, but you want me to stay behind to bear the consequences when you're the hero. Ha, dream on. Let me tell you, I won't agree. Leah. Elvis frowned. Leah rarely said such irrational words. He was angry. Elvis could clearly feel the anger and uneasiness behind his smile. Leah slapped Elvis's hand away and said, "It's not like you don't know how upset Mang Mang was when Snake died. Let me tell you, I don't have the courage to face Mang Mang again. I don't want to see Mang Mang in such pain ever again. So, if you want to give Mang Mang an insurance policy so that she can live longer in case of an emergency, then I will be the insurance." With that, Leah poked Elvis's chest with his slender fingers and said word by word, "You're her first partner. You should be the one to shoulder the more difficult things. Let me, the beast pet, do the small matter of dying." Elvis nodded. "But the person Xiao Meng likes the most is you, and the person who knows how to make her happy is also you. If one of us has to die in exchange for her safety one day, then the one she likes more should be the one to stay alive, isn't that right?" Elvis smiled bitterly and said, "Moreover, didn't you always say that you regretted giving Xiao Meng to me back then, causing you to lose her one and only? If I die in the future, you can have Xiao Meng all to yourself again. She has the strength of a beast king now, so she doesn't need any more partners to protect her. You can be with her forever." Chapter 1251. Elvis clenched his fists and lowered his hands. He did not dare to ask. He was afraid that Xiao Meng would be put in a difficult position. He was afraid that Xiao Meng would admit or deny. He was even more afraid that Xiao Meng was so smart and could see through his intentions. She would know that he was trying his best to advance to Beast King so that he could use his own life to prolong hers when she was in danger again. He did not want to be helpless when she was on the brink of death again. But this was a selfish decision. Death was such an easy thing. The one who was forced to live was the one who would be tortured. Wasn't Snake's death already demonstrated once? Leo was right. He used himself as the golden elixir to save Gu Meng Meng and became a hero. But Leah, who stayed behind to comfort Gu Meng Meng, had to endure her unbearable pain. He was not afraid of death, but he was afraid of Gu Meng Meng's frown. Leah suddenly stopped in his tracks. He turned around and smiled at Elvis. "You also know that I am a fox." Elvis was stunned for a moment. He did not quite understand what Leah meant. Leah placed an arm on Elvis's shoulder. He smiled slyly. "It is in my nature to be sly. What should I do? I don't like things to develop in a direction that is not beneficial to me." Elvis held his forehead. "Speak properly." Leah swayed his tail. He stood up straight. "There are two ways. One, do as I say. I will work hard to advance to the peak of 5th level. Then, we will look for the spirit of the rocky cliffs for me to activate the Beast King bloodline. If anything happens, let me be the second tier of the beast deity. 2. I will go in and wake Meng Meng up now. I will tell her your plan and let her teach you a lesson." Elvis hesitated but pretended to be calm. "You said that it will only make Xiao Meng sad. You won't do anything that will make her sad, right?" Leah shrugged. "I am not the one doing the things that will make her sad. If I don't report what I know, I will be treated as an accomplice. So, you decide. Do you want us to work together and hide this matter? Or do you want me to be a traitor and betray her?" "Leah." Elvis felt rather helpless. Other than fighting, it was too difficult for him to win Leah. Leah flipped himself over and stood side by side with Elvis. His shoulders leaned against the wall and the moonlight elongated their shadows. He said calmly, "If I also level up to become a Beast King, then there will be 3 Beast Kings in the entire Beast world, all gathered in our house. Under such circumstances, if someone wants to hurt Xiao Meng, what do you think the probability of success is?" Elvis understood that Leah was right. One Beast King was already invincible. If 3 Beast Kings worked together, no one in the beast world could hurt Gu Meng Meng in front of them. Even now, he had enough power to protect Gu Meng Meng and prevent anyone from hurting her. But the memory of the last time Gu Meng Meng was on her last breath and he could only kneel on the ground and cry blood was too clear. He was really afraid, so he suggested a foolproof solution. He did not want Leah to become the Beast King, not because he was afraid that Leah would shake his position after he became the Beast King, but because he knew that the success rate of activating the Beast King bloodline was only 30%. His success was largely due to luck. Chapter 1252. If you don't choose, I will go in and call Meng Meng. Leah said and was about to enter the house. I promise you. Elvis instinctively pulled Leah back, but the moment he said that, he gave a bitter laugh helplessly. I, the first partner, am still being led by the nose by you. Leah chuckled. That's because you know what I said is right, and my strategy has always been the most comprehensive. Don't worry, Meng Meng is a female that I have spent a lot of effort to get back. Unless I have no other choice, I can't bear to abandon her to die. Elvis nodded. The best scenario is that the two of us can protect her forever and not let her get hurt. Leah nodded and said, all right, there's nothing else, right? If you are willing to stay here and admire the night view, you can continue. I am going in to hug my Meng Meng to sleep. Elvis chuckled and didn't reply. He just followed Leah back into the stone castle. Perhaps their worries were groundless, or maybe it was because Gu Mingming's near-death experience had such a huge impact on them that after experiencing the fear of losing her, they could no longer bear to see her get hurt or bleed. So if she had a nosebleed, they would almost go crazy. If she had a thorn in her hand, their hearts would ache for a long time. So before they found the love of the sky, they would never let her have children. Gu Mengmeng didn't know about the conversation between Elvis and Leah. The latter part of the dry season was busier. Sauter's tribe was now more than 10 times its original size, and the population was increasing exponentially. That well was still not enough to supply everyone with water. Eventually, they could only collect water by family, with those with cubs taking priority. Sandy's family became the first family to collect water every day, because not only did they have cubs, they also had 2 female cubs under their name. Gu Mengmeng expressed that she had no objections, so naturally no one dared to say anything. As a result, Sandy's status in Sauter had unknowingly changed. Sandy herself did not realize it, but other than herself and Gu Mengmeng, everyone else's attitude towards Sandy had become more cautious and respectful. Just as Heda and Jialyu were busy with the matter of the water source, an unexpected visitor came to Sauter. This visitor who descended from the sky caused quite a commotion in Sauter because the aura he exuded was too sharp and did not fit in with the people around him. A sharp glint flashed past his eyes, making people want to retreat. This sharpness had nothing to do with his level. He clearly didn't release any beast pressure, but it was enough to make people tremble. Oh. Elvis looked lazily at the wild wolf who came to report and frowned. He turned to Leah and said, "There are 2 beast kings here and there is still someone who dares to barge in alone." Leah stood up and patted the dust off his body. "I'm afraid they don't have good intentions. You accompany Meng Meng, I'm going to meet the guest." As Leah had interacted with Elvis for a long time, he could understand the wolf's language. Hence, he did not need Elvis to translate for him to know what the wild wolf had said to him. Gu Mengmeng, on the other hand, was like an outsider as she stared at her 2 males speaking in riddles. She turned around and asked, "What's wrong? What kind of person was that? Stray beasts." Chapter 1253. Leah narrowed his eyes and said, don't show such an expectant expression, your interest in other males makes me want to kill someone. Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, all right, I was just wondering what guest made you so nervous. Leah smiled and said, a male who might become my love rival, I have to be careful, all right, I'm going out. Gu Mengmeng did not take Lee's words seriously. After all, in Lee's eyes, any male could become his love rival. Even females could become his love rival. After Leah left, Gu Mengmeng leaned into Elvis's arms, wondering if she should make a detour to Zacharias before returning to Saint Nazaire after the dry season ended. He was so worried about Qi Xian and Kanwu. Especially Qi Xian, he had sent grapes to Saint Nazaire last year, claiming to be some stray beast young master. Please don't get involved with Cole again. Elvis allowed Gu Mengmeng to lean against his chest, not feeling that there was anything wrong with it, instead feeling that this was the most complete position in his life. His slender fingers gently played with Gu Mengmeng's hair and said, I will go with you wherever you want to go. Elvis did not say that if it was really that person, Gu Mengmeng would not be able to go to Zacharias or return to Saint Nazaire. Gu Mengmeng's curiosity towards the sudden guest did not last long. The dry season was about to end and Gu Mengmeng was about to leave. Her two sons were busy dealing with all sorts of matters in the tribe, especially with the three factions fighting each other openly and covertly. It was a complete mess. Luckily, the two brothers worked well together, and although they could not handle things as easily as Leah, they could at least achieve a stable victory. Gu Mengmeng did not want to cause trouble for her sons, so she spent most of her time with Sandy. After all, their mating ceremony had already been completed and the two cute daughters-in-law were staying at Sandy's house, so there was nothing wrong with Gu Mengmeng visiting them often. Seeing that it was already noon and Leah would not be able to return in time to cook, Gu Mengmeng decided to just go to Sandy's house for a free meal. Although Bode was not around and Colin's culinary skills could not be compared to Lee's, but, in terms of cooking, who could be worse than Leah? The moment she stepped out, she was met with Oraton's face full of desire. Gu Mengmeng smiled helplessly. She did not even need to ask to know that this was a grudge from a foodie. Leah is not at home today. I'm going to Sandy's for a free meal. Shall we go together? Oraton shook his head and said expressionlessly, a bird came and said it wanted to see you. Leah asked me to come over and ask if you want to see him. Give me a bird. What bird? Gu Mengmeng found it strange. She could only recognize the Eagle Owl tribe because she could fly. If it was someone from the Eagle Owl tribe, it must mean that something had happened to Saint Nazaire. In that case, Leah would not have asked her if she wanted to meet him. He should have directly brought him back. Oraton frowned and said, a very annoying bird that can fly. Gu Mengmeng, nonsense, let's go and take a look. If Gu Mengmeng wanted to get some useful information from a tiger who had not eaten and was in a bad mood, she might as well make the trip herself. Elvis chuckled and did not say a word. He just carried her out of the stone castle. There was a pack of wolves guarding the door, and when they saw Elvis coming out, they immediately followed him. Gu Mengmeng had to admit that Elvis really had a style after becoming the Beast King. Every time he went out, he would be like the owner of a kennel, bringing a pack of huskies with him. Chapter 1254. The moment she entered the stone house, Gu Mengmeng felt that the atmosphere was not quite right. Leah and another person she did not know were standing face to face. That person was expressionless and had a cold demeanor. Even though they were wearing the same beast-skin dress, he exuded an aura of abstinence, making one want to kneel down and shout, Master, I am Xiao Gu. The feathers on both sides of his ears proved his identity. Yeah, he was a bird. Those feathers were different from those of the Eagle Owl tribe. They were dark gray with dark patterns. Gu Mengmeng could not recognize what bird feathers it was, so she could not determine which tribe he belonged to. But Lee's smile was so warm that Gu Mengmeng's hair stood on end. For Leah to smile like that, it was obvious that the birdman standing opposite him had made him very angry. Gu Meng Meng was placed on a stone chair by Elvis. Elvis stood quietly behind her to guard her, not saying a word. Seeing that Gu Meng Meng had returned, Leah also stood back and waved his tail. Meng Meng, let me introduce. This is the current leader of the renowned vulture tribe, Gregory. Gu Meng Meng's eyes widened. Vulture tribe. She had fallen into an endless cycle of not being able to see the vulture tribe if she did not ascend the mountain. She had been stuck in a dilemma for a long time, and now he had delivered himself to her doorstep. Damn it! You are the legendary messenger of the beast deity. Gregory sized up Gu Meng Meng with an unfriendly expression. Gu Meng Meng was taken aback by Gregory's attitude. Her father had clearly said that the vulture tribe was the tribe closest to him, so she could show off her father's reputation. But this person in front of her did not seem to buy it. I am. Gu Meng Meng gave a simple reply. She decided to stay the same and see what the other party's intentions were. Gregory looked at Elvis and then at Leah. Finally, his gaze landed on Gu Meng Meng. There was not much expression on his face, but it was different from Oriton's poker face. He was really cold, so cold that even his gaze seemed to be covered in ice. It was bone-chilling. Tell me, why are you looking for me? Gregory asked. Gu Meng Meng was even more confused. Who was looking for you? That's not right. I was looking for him, but I couldn't find him. Isn't he the one who delivered himself to me? Gregory could tell that Gu Meng Meng was puzzled and became a little impatient. He took a deep breath, as if suppressing his desire to turn and leave. That mighty one sent a messenger to the Moda Mountains, so I came down the mountain to look for you. If you're not looking for me, then I'll take my leave. Wait. Gu Meng Meng probed, who is that great lord? It couldn't be Cole again, right? Gregory looked at Gu Meng Meng, squinting his eyes in a probing manner. Are you really the messenger of the beast deity? Worth the price. Gu Meng Meng was very confident about this. Gregory did not agree and said, since you are the messenger of the beast deity, how would you not know who that lord is? Gu Meng Meng was at a loss for words. She really did not know who that lord was. Gregory's gaze landed on Elvis's chest. He frowned and said, you took something from his hands, but did not know that he asked me to look for you. That means, he did not give it to you willingly, but you snatched it from him. Ha, to be able to snatch the heart of the desert from that lord, you are really capable. Heart of the desert. Gu Meng Meng instinctively looked at Elvis's chest, where the red spider lily was blooming. Chapter 1255. Wait a minute. Seeing Gregory turning to leave, Gu Meng Meng said, although I don't remember who that great lord you are talking about is, but I do have something to discuss with you. Since he helped me to pass the message, he should be in cahoots with me. Gregory turned back to look at Gu Meng Meng. What's the matter? I want the love of the sky. Gu Meng Meng straightforwardly stated her motive. Gregory looked at Gu Meng Meng for a long time. You can't go up to Moda Mountains. There was no hint of sarcasm or mockery. He was just stating the truth. So I need you to help me. Gu Meng Meng said. Gregory looked at Elvis and then at Leah. He shook his head. The peak of Moda Mountains is a sacred place for vultures. They can only bring their partners there to pray for blessings during mating. Other than that, no outsiders are allowed to enter. So, if you want to enter, you can only climb up yourself and defeat all the guards along the way. Gu Meng Meng was considering the feasibility of this plan when Gregory continued. But Moda Mountains are very steep. There are sharp rocks at the foot of the mountain. Based on your and your partner's abilities, you should be able to handle it. But starting from the middle of the mountain, it is a smooth cliff without any footholds. Unless you can stick to the mountain walls like a lizard, you will definitely not be able to continue climbing. Stick to the mountain walls like a lizard. Gu Mingming's brain was working furiously. She was trying to think of an alternative plan. But before she could come up with one, Gregory continued. Based on your wolf partner's abilities, he will need more than half a day to cross the middle of the mountain at his fastest speed. And if you want to climb up the mountain, a conservative estimate is that you will need to climb for 3 to 10 days. During this period, you will not have any food, water or rest. You will also have to face the constant attacks from the birds guarding the mountain. If you slack off for even a moment and fall, the 10,000-blade stone knife at the foot of the mountain will kill you. 3 to 10 days without eating, drinking, sleeping or resting. You will also have to face attacks and climb up the smooth cliff without any footholds. This was something that was simply impossible to achieve. Even if you manage to do it, the real test will only begin after you cross the middle of the mountain. Because the closer you get to the peak, the lower the temperature. The winter you usually spend on land is like a greenhouse compared to the climate on the mountain top. Accompanied by the low temperature and howling winds, the snow is like countless sharp claws cutting into your body. One of your partners has the advantage in terms of strength, while the other has the advantage in terms of race, so they can probably last for 2 days. As for you, you don't have a hard and thick fur to resist the cold and wind, so you can only last for half a day at most before you freeze to death. Grace's emotions were calm throughout the entire process. He was like an expert deducing a mathematical formula. Every word he said was precise and professional, which was very convincing. Gu Mengmeng had the relevant psychological knowledge from Wang Xiaoxin. She could judge from Gregory's body language and micro-expressions that he was not exaggerating. Every word he said was the truth. So, even if the 3 of them risked their lives, they would not be able to ascend Moda Mountains. Was that what he meant? That's why I said I need your help, Gu Mengmeng said. Chapter 1256. I don't accept it either. Gu Mengmeng flared up. I just want you to bring me up the mountain. I am interested in the things on the mountain, but I have no interest in you. I said, the mountain peak is the holy land of vultures. We can only bring people other than our tribe members there to pray for blessings during mating. Since you and I have no intention of becoming partners, I naturally can't bring you up. Why are you so stubborn? Gu Mengmeng asked. Who bestowed that holy land? The previous messenger of the beast deity. Who bestowed it? This question stumped Gregory. Ever since he was born, he had been guarding the peak of the Moda Mountains, facing the harsh weather. The sacred land had always been a sacred land, but no one had ever told him why it was a sacred land, and when did it become a sacred land. But that was not important. It was an indisputable fact that the vulture tribe had been guarding that place for generations. Rules were rules and they had to be obeyed. As the leader of the vulture tribe, he could not simply break the rules. If it was a rule set by the previous messenger of the beast deity, then I should be able to abolish it, right? After all, we are of the same rank. She is a messenger and so am I. If my rank is not high enough, how about I ask the beast deity? After all, the vulture tribe is the most loyal protector of the beast deity. What if the beast deity gives the order? Can I abolish your stupid rules? Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, as a second-generation deity, when else would she be able to fool her father? Gregory was unmoved. He stood his ground and said, this is the rule of the vulture tribe. Even the messenger cannot force others against their will. If the beast deity insists on breaking our rules, then when loyalty cannot be served at the same time, we can only sacrifice our entire tribe to uphold our will. We will not defy our tribe rules or betray the beast deity. Gu Mingming's mind was only filled with the word inflexible. But Gregory's tone was not a threat, but a statement. This made Gu Mengmeng know clearly that if she were to use her father's name to pressure him, Gregory would really choose to die in glory than to live in dishonor. Damn it, if the vulture tribe died out because of this, she could forget about ever obtaining the love of the sky. Rolling her eyes, Gu Mengmeng asked again, why don't you get someone from the vulture tribe to talk to me? Only the clan leader of the vulture race can descend the mountain when he receives instructions from that lord. Gregory's gaze swept across Elvis's chest, then he said, now that the great lord is probably no longer around, so after I return this time, there shouldn't be any vultures coming down from the mountain anymore. Damn it, who was that lord? What if that lord asked you to bring me up? Are you willing? Gu Mengmeng tested. Gregory coldly snorted and said, you don't even know who that lord is, yet you want to use such ridiculous words to scare me? Chapter 1257. Gregory furrowed his brows, seemingly unwilling to do so. He didn't like fighting with land beasts. They were crude, barbaric and filthy. The smell on their bodies was unbearable. Although this messenger of the beast deity looked pretty nice, he didn't know why he didn't like her. He had a feeling of resistance towards her. But since that great lord had already given the order, he couldn't reject it. She then looked at the red spider lily on Elvis's chest. Since this is the final order from that great lord, I will definitely obey. I will give you a month's time. If you don't have a reason to convince me after a month, I will fly straight back to Moda Mountains. With that, Gregory turned and left the meeting room, flapping his wings and flying off. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed, speechless. After coming to the beast world, she had seen a lot of the world. She even felt that she could handle a pervert like Cole. But this Gregory was stubborn and unmoved by force or persuasion. Turning to look at Leah, Gu Mengmeng asked, Leah, can't we not have the love of the sky? Of course we can. Leah chuckled and kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead. I only need you. I don't need little foxes. Damn it. Did he mean that without the love of the sky to protect her from the pain of childbirth, he wouldn't let her get pregnant? Gu Mengmeng rubbed her chin and thought for a moment. Why not? Try the 7-word mantra. She wrinkled her nose and was about to cry when Leah wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her into his arms. You know I can't do anything about your tears. So if you want to cry, I will definitely give in. Actually, it's nothing much. At most, I will be on tenterhooks when you're pregnant. When you're giving birth, I won't be able to bear the heartache and die. With that, Leah pressed his lips against Gu Mengmeng's and lingered for a long time by her lips, asking in a hoarse voice, so, if you want to torture me with your tears because of that nest of little foxes, come on, the torture you give me, even if I'm crushed into pieces, even if I'm consigned to eternal damnation, I'm willing to endure it as sweet as syrup. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands in defeat. Who's going to cry? Humph. With that, Gu Mengmeng struggled out of Lee's arms and hung onto Elvis's chest. They left the meeting room and returned to the stone castle. Leah shook his head and said helplessly, You're scolding me again. Last time, that humph lasted for several days. She didn't speak properly, nor did she eat well. All kinds of cold violence, forget it, it was better to torment him than to torment herself. As long as she was fine, he could endure any grievances. When Gu Mengmeng returned to the stone castle, Sandy, Hedda and Jiaoyu were all there. I saw that you didn't go to my place today, so I came to find you. Sandy saw that Gu Mengmeng had returned and went forward to hold her little hand, saying, I heard that a member of the birds tribe came to the tribe today and specifically asked to see you. What kind of person was that? Did he cause you any trouble? Chapter 1258. Then why don't you let Ian bring you there? Sandy was puzzled. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes. Speechless and full of disdain, she said, it's all because of that pervert Gregory. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and said, initially, I wanted Ian to bring me there, but he told me that leaving the Moda Mountains was a betrayal. If I went any closer to the Moda Mountains, I would be attacked by the other birds guarding the mountains. They would not rest until they were dead. And the leader of the Moda Mountains is Gregory from the Vulture tribe. Do you think there's something wrong with his brain? I already said that I can ask the beast deity to abolish that whatever tribe rule, so that they don't have to endure so much hardship guarding the mountains. Not only did he not appreciate my kindness, he even said that if the beast deity forcefully interfered, their entire tribe would be sacrificed to ensure both loyalty and justice. Sandy had always been on the same side as Gu Mengmei and could not bear to see anyone making her angry. Looking at Gu Mengmei's seething anger, Sandy also chimed in, isn't he just a third-level birdman? What's there to be so arrogant about? How about this, I'll ask Colin to bring Hodgson and Jerry to tie him up and beat him up until he's willing to bring you up obediently, alright. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, if force works, I'll beat him up myself. The point is that if I go up into the sky, I'll be handing my life over to him. If he wants to play any tricks, he just needs to let go in the sky and I'll be finished. So he must be the one who willingly brings me up. Sandy thought about it and agreed. Even if he was scared of being beaten up and agreed to bring Gu Mengmeng up, what if he took revenge in the sky? By then, no one would be able to protect Gu Mengmeng. It was too risky. This would not do. Why not? You mate with him. There's nothing wrong with having one more partner. The moment she said that, the temperature in the room dropped by 8 degrees. Elvis's and Lee's faces turned darker than a millstone. What if Gu Mengmeng really took in that birdman just to give birth to a nest of little foxes? In front of Wings, Elvis and Leah had no advantage at all. Would they be able to compete for his favor in the future? That guy didn't look weak. After mating, he should be able to reach level 4 or even level 5 immediately. So when he found the spirit of the rocky cliffs in the future, should he activate the bloodline of the Beast King? Elvis and Lee's thoughts had already flown to the horizon, but Gu Mengmeng could not be bothered with them. She just pouted and shook her head, saying, he doesn't like me, and I don't like him either. He dares to look down on you. Sandy immediately exploded upon hearing that. She dropped the table and stood up. You are Gu Mengmeng. She was the best female in the entire beast world. He was just a birdman, why wouldn't he like her? Was he blind? No, this can't be tolerated, absolutely cannot be tolerated. Where was that birdman now? I want to reason with him. Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Sandy's waist and hung onto her like she had no bones. With a wronged look, she said, I just know that only my baby Sandy knows how good I am. Yeah, you're enough. The others have no taste and don't know what's good for them, we won't argue with them. Chapter 1259. Jiaoyu sat beside Leah and poked him with his elbow. Are you just going to watch my mother fret? Leah sighed in exasperation. That Gregory is too defensive. Moreover, it's our first encounter today. He's so secretive that I can't figure out his background. We were completely led by the nose in the first round. But Jiaoyu didn't believe him. He raised his brows. Everyone has a weakness. No matter how strong he is, he can't be so secretive. Your mother has fought for a month's time. We have to properly meet this vulture tribe leader in this month. Leah patted Hede and Jiaoyu's shoulders. You are guests from afar. You two must not forget Sauter's etiquette. Understood. Hede chuckled. Jiaoyu teased Kiera. Let me say this first. I'm just trying to find a way out for my younger brothers and sisters. I'm not doing this for you. Leah knocked on Jiaoyu's head and said, you will beg me one day in the future. Definitely. Jiaoyu smiled. But you can't reject me when I beg you. Right. Daddy Leah. Jiaoyu smiled. Daddy Leah sounded sweet and gentle. He looked at Leah with eyes that were 90% similar to Gu Mingming's. Lee's heart tightened. He covered Jiaoyu's eyes and pushed him to the side. Clenching his teeth, he said, yes. Jiaoyu stood up and patted his butt. He reiterated, everything I'm doing is to find a way out for my younger brothers and sisters. It's not because of you. Got it. Leah clenched his teeth. Jiaoyu's repeated emphasis was clearly telling him to remember this little demon's favor. Sigh, what else could he do but continue spoiling the little wolf pups he had taught? Who asked him to be so helpless against those eyes? Jiaoyu and Heda walked to the door and bade farewell to Gu Mengmeng and Sandy, who were sitting at the door and complaining crazily. Jiaoyu said that the family of a few female wolf beasts had come to the tribe, and they were different from normal male wolf beasts. The females had to be properly settled down, and in addition, the tribe had to stock up on food since the rainy season had started, so they were quite busy and could not chat with Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mingming's heart ached that her sons were too tired, so she asked them to go back to work first. When Leah was done with dinner, she would send it over to them. The two sons agreed sensibly and obediently. Jiaoyu couldn't help but say a few more teasing words to Gu Mengmeng before they left. On the other hand, Leah instructed Oriton to rush back to St. Nazaire and call Ian over. Oriton left in a hurry after reporting to Gu Mengmeng. There was no other reason other than Leah was in charge of cooking and Oriton definitely did not want to offend him. Meanwhile, Gu Mengmeng and Sandy were in a much better mood after complaining for a long time. The two females discussed many unreliable but extremely satisfying methods. Gu Mengmeng knew that these methods would not be put into practice, but just discussing them was enough to make her feel better. To be honest, other than Elvis, this Gregory was the most arrogant person Gu Mengmeng had ever met. She felt inexplicably displeased. She really wanted to shatter that expression of abstinence on his face and watch him kneel down and beg for mercy. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 1260. Lee's words always made sense, so Gu Mengmeng gladly accepted Lee's suggestion. So in the following 3 days, Gu Mengmeng had nothing to do. Instead, Leah and Jiaoyu were secretly whispering to each other. Morse code. On the 4th day, Leah returned to the stone castle with a smile on his face. The moment he entered, he opened his arms wide, waiting for Gu Mengmeng to throw herself into his arms. Gu Mengmeng didn't know what Leah was up to, but still threw herself into his arms, giving him a welcome home hug. Leah stroked Gu Mengmeng's little head. I have neglected you these 3 days, did you miss me? Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Although Leah was a little busy, he did not neglect her. No matter how busy he was, he would always come back to prepare 3 meals a day. If he could solve a problem outside the stone castle, he would never go outside. At most, he would go to the meeting room when he was plotting something with Jiaoyu. This so-called neglect probably meant that he did not stick to her 24/7. Heartless. Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little face and grumbled, I miss you to death every second we're apart, but you don't even care if I'm not by your side. Am I still your most beloved partner? Gu Mingming's smile widened. She felt extremely helpless. Lee's tone was like a concubine who had been wronged. Gu Mengmeng felt that she should lift his chin and say something along the lines of, Come, I will love you dearly tonight. This Gregory has not even married into the family and I have already fallen out of favor. If you really accept him in the future, will there still be a place for me in this family? Gu Mingming's face froze. She looked at Leah. What has this got to do with Gregory? I don't like that old cadre at all. Gu Mengmeng knew that she did not have any masochistic tendencies. With Leah and Elvis, gentle and considerate partners who coaxed her in everything, why should she like that ice block who looked down on her? Moreover, she had said long ago that having 2 partners had already crossed her bottom line. She would never have a third one. Seeing Gu Mengmeng's look of disdain, Lee's mood became much better. He carried Gu Mengmeng up and walked to Elvis's side to place her back into his arms. He leaned on her knees and said, "Jiaoyu, that fellow is very capable. He managed to get quite a lot of information from that bird man." Oh. Gu Mengmeng had always known that Jiaoyu was quick-witted, but she did not expect that even Leah would be led around by the nose by Jiaoyu. Her interest was instantly piqued. "What did you get out of him? Tell me." Leah swayed his tail lazily and Gu Mengmeng instinctively reached out to scoop him up. She hugged his white and furry large tail in her arms and stroked it back and forth. Leah felt extremely comfortable from her touch. He squinted his eyes and said, "The vulture tribe is the same as the snow fox tribe. They are the followers of the messenger of the beast deity. The only difference was that Sauter was in control of all land beasts. The vultures are in the dark, hidden in the Moda Mountains, leading all the birds to protect the sacred relic." From what Gregory said, the sacred relic that they are protecting is not only the love of the sky, but also something else. However, Jiaoyu did not dare to ask further, because if he asked too deeply, Gregory would definitely sense it. Once he is on his guard, it would be difficult to pry his mouth open. Chapter 1261. Leah continued, "All birds are not allowed to leave the Moda Mountains. Did you think of anything?" "Think of what?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah blankly and shook her head. Leah smiled and said, "They say it is to protect the sacred object, but don't you feel that it is more like a form of imprisonment?" She thought about what Ian had said. The living conditions were terrible, but they were not allowed to leave. Once they left, they would be considered a traitor and a disgrace. If they returned, they would be attacked and killed by all the birds. This was not only inhumane, it was also a life imprisonment. Moreover, it was a hereditary system and their descendants would be trapped in the Moda Mountains forever. If it was just to protect something, they could just bring it along and guard another mountain. Why did they have to guard the Moda Mountains with the terrible weather? In that case, besides the love of the sky, they are also guarding the Moda Mountains. Gu Mengmeng raised her suspicions. Leah nodded in agreement and said, "So, they do not allow any birds to move out because they are afraid that the news will be leaked out and people will guess." Even Ian kept his mouth shut about what happened in Moda Mountains after he migrated out. If not for the fact that I had coincidentally asked him about the love of the sky, he would definitely have brought this secret to his grave and never mentioned a word about it until his death. From this point of view, flying beasts were indeed more trustworthy than land beasts. After all, once land beasts mate, their partners are the most important and they can do anything for their partners. Look at me and Elvis, we are the best examples. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "Yes, yes, yes, you two are the best. I must have saved the Milky Way in my previous life to be able to meet you two in this life." With that, Gu Mengmeng kissed Leah and Elvis on their cheeks. It felt like she was comforting a child, but the two males enjoyed it very much. Leah swayed his tail and looked at Elvis. He said, "Mighty Wolf King, looks like we have to add another task to our journey." Elvis asked. Leah said, "In order to meet Gu Mengmeng again in our next life, let's go save the Milky Way this time. If he doesn't need to be saved, I will appear and cripple him, then you can come and chase me away. How about that?" "All right." Elvis's reply was simple and clean. Leah turned to look at Gu Mengmeng and asked, "So Gu Mengmeng, who is the Milky Way? Where is he?" "Pfft. Ha 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 ha. Are you two trying to laugh me to death and then inherit my inheritance?" Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng's smiling face, his eyes filled with gentleness. After laughing with Gu Meng Meng for a while, Leah continued. But Meng Meng, do you know how the leader of the vulture tribe is chosen? Gu Meng Meng replied without thinking, probably from fighting. Whoever is more powerful will be the clan leader. Wasn't it the same in the beast world? Leah shook his head and smiled faintly. No, whoever can sense the signal sent by the messenger of that great lord will be qualified to be the tribe leader. It's that lord again. Who is that lord? Gu Meng Meng frowned. Her instincts told her that she should know that great lord. After all, Gregory had sworn that great lord was guarding the heart of the desert. Now that she had obtained the heart of the desert, it proved that she had at least seen that great lord before. Chapter 1262. So I should still go see my father and ask him who that mighty person is. Gu Meng Meng came to this conclusion. But Leah shook his head and said, the main point is not who that mighty person is, but the agreement between the vulture tribe and that mighty person. Gu Meng Meng had a hunch that this agreement had something to do with them obtaining the love of the sky, so she stared at Leah with sparkling eyes. But Leah suddenly changed the topic and said proudly, but I am not in the mood to say it now. Don't say things halfway, you will make me anxious to death. Gu Meng Meng shook Leah's shoulders and grumbled shamelessly. Leah was dizzy from her shaking, but he pursed his lips and didn't say a single word. Hubby, Gu Meng Meng's voice trilled 8 times at the end, making Leah's bones melt. He snickered and rubbed Gu Meng Meng's little head, saying as if he was at a loss of what to do with her, then let me ask you first, between the love of the sky and Elvis, who is more important? Gu Meng Meng didn't even think before answering, Elvis is more important. Leah nodded. Although he hit it well, a trace of disappointment still flashed across his eyes. The love of the sky represented their child. The little fox she yearned for so much was not worth mentioning in front of Elvis. She gave it up without a trace of hesitation. Leah looked up at Elvis, using his eyes to say, now, you still dare to say that I am the one she likes the most. It doesn't matter even if you die, can she still live on? Elvis didn't answer and just stared at Gu Meng Meng with a loving gaze. His eyes were filled with the bliss of dying without regrets. Gu Meng Meng didn't know the contents of Elvis and Lee's conversation that night, and also didn't know what kind of feelings her answer had given to the 2 males. She just continued to ask, why? Is there any conflicting relationship between the love of the sky and the heart of the desert? If I obtain the love of the sky, will Elvis, who owns the heart of the desert, die? That's not it. The speed at which Leah sorted out his emotions was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he was all smiles again. He looked at Elvis ambiguously and stretched out his slender fingers to draw circles on the red spider lily mark on Elvis's chest without saying a word. Elvis had goosebumps all over his body as he scolded coldly, "Scram." Leo lifted his head and gave a provocative smile. Not only did he not move his hand away, he even placed his entire palm on Elvis's chest without any scruples. He even squeezed it impudently and said, "No." A thick mark appeared on Elvis's forehead and he gritted his teeth. Don't do anything that will make Xiao Meng's imagination run wild. She will have a nosebleed again later. Once she said that, Leah immediately retracted his hand as if he had been electrocuted. He then looked at Gu Meng Meng in fear and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw her calm expression. Ever since Elvis and Leah got drunk last winter, Gu Meng Meng had joked about their relationship until Elvis wanted to kill Leah and commit suicide to atone for his sins. Gu Meng Meng's Fujoshi heart was completely strangled in the cradle and she did not dare to fantasize about those scenes anymore. Seeing the tense atmosphere between Leah and Elvis, Gu Meng Meng pushed Lee's claws away from Elvis's chest and said, "Be serious." Chapter 1263. How should she put it? Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. Laughing dryly, she asked, What marriage? Leah glanced at Elvis but smiled without saying a word. Elvis's tail bristled from Lee's laughter and he ground his teeth loudly. Leah said leisurely, In the vulture tribe, only the tribe leader can mate with outsiders, so only the tribe leader can sense the signal sent by that great lord and descend the mountain, then, ah. Leah said slowly. Don't laugh, I'm so scared. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her arms and stared at Leah with widened eyes. Finish your sentence properly. Leah rubbed his own face and said, Are you panicking? Don't you like to see me laugh the most? Gu Mengmeng held Lee's shoulders with both hands. Please, don't stop in the middle. Finish your sentence properly. Leah pointed at his face. Give me the encouragement of love and I will continue. Gu Mengmeng pressed her lips against his without another word. But Leah turned his head in an instant and pressed his lips against hers accurately. A smile bloomed from the corners of his eyes. Lee's hand threaded through Gu Mengmeng's black hair and he gently rubbed her head. They were clearly an old married couple, but Gu Mengmeng's heart was still stirred by Lee's sudden touch. Blushing, she took a step back and fell into Elvis's arms. Leah then continued. I heard that the betrothal partner is the one who inherited the heart of the desert. When that great lord's messenger reaches the Moda Mountains to inform the vulture tribe leader will fly down from the mountain peak to fulfill the betrothal. But Lee's gaze landed on Elvis's chest again. He couldn't help but laugh so hard that his shoulders shook. Gu Mengmeng's brain froze for a few seconds. She hugged Elvis with both hands like a child protecting her beloved toy. She shook her head furiously. No. I don't want the love of the sky anymore. If that bird dares to snatch my hubby away, I will stew him. Elvis was almost suffocated by Gu Mengmeng's strangulation, but he smiled blissfully like a foolish son of a landlord. He completely lost the imposing manner and prestige of a wolf king. Leah was originally trying to hold back his laughter, but after Gu Mengmeng's tantrum, he simply laughed out loud. The laughter from the stone castle reverberated in the sky above Sauter and the entire sky seemed to have become brighter. After calming down, Gu Mengmeng nestled in Elvis's arms with a worried face and said, No wonder that fellow's eyes kept glancing at Elvis's chest. TSK, my hubby must have been molested by someone's eyes, right? I should have gouged out his eyes. Aw. I'm so jealous. Leah wagged his tail and said, Hey, Xiao Mengmeng, if others look at me like this, will you dig your eyes out too? Dig. Gu Mengmeng said firmly, I will dig out the eyes of whoever dares to rape my man. Leah and Elvis could not help but chuckle. Xiao Meng's jealous look was really cute. Chapter 1264. Gu Mengmeng bit her fingers while shaking her feet. Her brain was in a frenzy. She had to get the love of the sky or Leah would not let her give birth to little foxes. She could not hand Elvis over. Damn it, she could not hand him over even if she died. She could not sell her husband no matter what. So she still had to start from Gregory. Weakness, what exactly was his weakness? Modern men were easy to guess. Wealth, power and women. Any man could not escape from these three. To put it proudly, in the beast world, Gu Mengmeng herself was already the most powerful woman. But what did he say? He said he did not fancy her. Power. Moda Mountains was beyond the rules of the beast world and Gregory was the leader there. He probably had the highest power. Seeing how he despised land beasts and did not seem to want to be the leader here, even if Gu Mengmeng gave him the official title of the messenger of the beast deity, he would not even take a second look. Then, what about wealth? Gu Mengmeng scratched her head. He was just a damn bird, why would he need wealth? Heavens, could he give me Legend's thunder god hammer? Maybe even birdman like that thing. Gu Meng Meng felt like she was going crazy. Raising her head, Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah with a pitiful gaze. I am indeed not suitable to think about people, what should I do? I want the love of the sky but I don't want to hand Elvis over. Leah, can you think of a way? Leah smiled in satisfaction but shook his head. He knelt down on one knee and hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his finger. No, my dear Gu Mengmeng. You should say, Leah, think of a way. Don't you know that? If it is your order, I will definitely execute it. Just like how he would rather be injured or even die than to level up at the 3rd level. At the crucial moment of that battle, it was Gu Mengmeng who ordered him not to be injured. So he agreed with a smile and broke through to the 3rd level. If it was her order, even if it did not match his own plans, he would still execute it. But ever since that time, Gu Mengmeng never spoke to him in a commanding tone. Actually, he was very disappointed. He had been waiting for her to trust him and rely on him. She would no longer think of solving problems by herself, but instead lay lazily in Elvis's arms, casually throwing troublesome matters to him and ordering him to solve them. Only then would he feel that he was needed, and only then would life have meaning. Facing Lee's urgent gaze, Gu Mengmeng said softly, Yeah, I want the love of the sky, but I don't want to give Elvis to him. Leah, go and think of a solution. Lee's smile was very blissful, even more dazzling than the warm sun in March. He held Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed the back of it. As you wish, my queen. That night, Ian and Oriton arrived at Sauder together. For the first time, Leah did not return to the stone castle for the night and instead had a secret discussion with Ian, Jialu, Heda, and Oriton in the meeting room for the entire night. They analyzed all the known information and came up with a meticulous plan step by step. Like a net that was about to catch a bird, they slowly spread it out unknowingly and wanted to trap Gregory within a month. Manipulating people's hearts. Chapter 1265. Leah said that all humans would have greed. And this greed would become a chain strangling his throat. The other end would be in the hands of an outsider, and he would naturally become a stray dog. He had schemed against the messenger of the beast deity in the past, but he did not know that the messenger of the beast deity was Gu Mengmeng. He had paid a heavy price for it, and after that, he no longer dared to look down on all living things from the perspective of God, to arrange other people's destinies, and to plot the path of others' lives. It was really a long time before he returned to his old profession. The next day, Gregory was invited to the stone castle. He was especially cautious the moment he entered, and was always on guard. But from start to end, Gu Mingming's family did not mention anything about the Moda Mountains. They only talked about the interesting things in their lives, some trivial and scattered, and completely in the style of daily life. There was not a single bit of probing or attacking content. During the meal, Leah greeted Gregory warmly, telling him that he must try his best dishes. Gregory was not used to such warmth, but could not reject it, so he could only accept. After living like this for more than 10 days, Gregory had gradually relaxed his vigilance. He had even developed the same habit as Oriton. Every morning, he would fly out and bring back some bird eggs and flying beasts. Then, he would head straight to the stone castle to share a meal. Oriton was especially friendly towards Gregory because it was actually very difficult for land orcs to hunt for birds. Even if they managed to catch them, they were either too young or too old. On the other hand, Gregory could always bring back plump and juicy birds that were in the prime of their lives. Ian had already arrived at Sauder for many days, but strangely, he did not show himself. Gu Mengmeng occasionally asked about Leah, but he always changed the topic. Gu Mengmeng then understood that Leah had his own plans, so she did not bring it up again. Half a month had passed, and Sauter welcomed another batch of uninvited guests. Elvis felt the restlessness of the wolf pack, and could not help but frown. "I will go out to take a look." Gu Mingming's expression was also unfriendly. She shook her head and said, "Let's go together." The originally lively scene instantly turned cold because of Elvis and Gu Mingming's expressions. Li's smile did not diminish, but there was a hint of malice in it. He followed behind Elvis, not saying a word. Oratin had a poker face to begin with. His expression didn't change, but his body was emitting the aura of battle. Gregory subconsciously became vigilant, his muscles tensed up as he followed behind them. He didn't even think about what a battle between land beasts had to do with him. Why did he want to get involved? He just followed Gu Mengmeng and the rest out as if it was a matter of course. The wolf pack would follow Elvis closely the moment he left the vicinity of the stone castle. As a result, what was originally a family trip suddenly became a grand sight. The wolf beasts in the tribe all sensed Elvis's aura and followed him. The snow fox tribesmen did not want to be left behind and also joined in, following behind Leah. The people from the 16 tribes did not know what was going on but also followed. So, when everyone appeared at the border of Sauter, the scene looked like a huge army pressing down on the border, ready to invade the world. There were 7 to 8 orcs standing at the edge of the tribe. They were so frightened by this scene that their stomachs and legs were cramping. They said while trembling, "Sir. Sir Messenger. It was the young master who asked us to deliver grapes." Chapter 1266. That orc shook his head. Originally, there were more than 20 stray beasts carrying the grapes over. But for some reason, they suddenly screamed and ran off. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and did not say a word. Thinking about how afraid Wabi was of her, it was not hard to guess why the stray beasts had fled. Gu Mengmeng scanned the surroundings coldly. Not a single stray beast's aura could be sensed. She then retracted her cold aura and said, "You guys follow me back to Sauter for a rest today. We'll set off for Zacharias tomorrow. Tell Qi not to let stray beasts deliver grapes in the future." "Yes, great messenger." The orc who had delivered the grapes nodded and went back to pick up the huge stone basins containing the grapes. Elvis signaled with his eyes, and the wild wolves all stepped forward to do the work of carrying the grapes. Carrying the basins of grapes on their backs, they followed Gu Mengmeng and the rest back. They had come in a threatening manner, but when they returned, it was more like a joyful and relaxed company outing. They did not head back to the tribe, but headed in another direction. There was a small stream there, where Elvis had previously brought Gu Mengmeng to wash her nose. They had almost settled down there. When they arrived at the stream, Elvis and Leah, who had seen Gu Mengmeng wash the grapes last year, personally went into the water. After all, Fei Rui was not around, so they could not use the 3-wheeled washing machine to wash the grapes. They could only rely on their own hands to wash the grapes. Fortunately, there were enough people following them out, so it saved them a lot of time. Gu Mengmeng removed her beast skin boots and soaked her feet in the stream. She sat on a rock and kicked the water for fun. Gregory stood beside her, looking down at her from behind. How should he put it? Her coldly commanding the army in Elvis's arms was too eye-catching. Even if there was a stronger beast king standing beside her, her brilliance could not be overshadowed. She was clearly a petite and soft body, but it contained an energy that no one could ignore. It was as if she was the true owner of this world, looking down on all living things from a bird's-eye view. Gregory had a momentary illusion that Gu Mengmeng was a glowing person, dazzling but unable to shift his eyes away. At that moment, his brain could not make any sense of judgment. Apart from her face, he could not see anything else. After spending more than 10 days together, Gu Mengmeng had always been a warm and radiant image. Even though he knew that she had a huge amount of energy, he had never sensed a hint of danger from her. But just now, she just slightly furrowed her brows, and the murderous aura from her whole body shocked the entire 9 regions. It made people shudder with fear, but at the same time, it also made them inexplicably excited. But now, she was kicking the water with her bare feet, smiling like a child. "Grace, do you want some?" Gu Mengmeng turned around and plucked one grape from the bunch of grapes that Leah had washed for her. She extended her arm and passed it to Gregory, who was standing behind her. She turned around and realized that he was in a daze. She could not help but smile and say, "Hey, you came back to your senses." Gregory cleared his throat awkwardly and turned his face to the side, but he could not shift his gaze away from Gu Mingming's smiling face. He took the grapes from her hands and said with a hoarse voice, Thank you." "You're welcome." Gu Mengmeng did not say anything else. She turned around and continued eating her grapes, completely not bothered by Gregory's distracted state just now. Gregory placed the grape into his mouth and licked it lightly. The juice flowed everywhere, filling his mouth with a fragrant sweetness. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.